All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking open the playbook for building a startup, and we're getting our notes straight from Y Combinator. Think of this as your 5-minute guide to the absolute core principles of the game. So, let's jump right in. This is the question, right? The one every single founder asks. What's the secret sauce? Is it the brilliant idea, a boatload of funding, perfect timing? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down in this explainer. The proven steps, from day one all the way to getting real traction. And this quote, it just nails it. The world is absolutely swimming in great ideas. But the ones that actually make it, the tiny, tiny fraction that succeed, it's all because of smart, relentless execution. And that execution begins with the single biggest decision you will ever make. Yep, you heard that right. It's not what you build, it's who you build it with. Your co-founders, your founding team, that is the absolute foundation for everything that comes next. If you get this part wrong, even the most brilliant idea is pretty much doomed from the start. Okay, so this one might feel a little weird, a little counterintuitive, but Y Combinator's advice here is crystal clear. You gotta go for nearly equal equity splits. And why is that? Because a startup isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. It's a brutal, often 10-year journey. And you absolutely need everyone feel just as motivated, just as bought in when things get tough. And trust me, they will get tough. You hear all kinds of excuses for unequal splits, right? I had the idea first, or I worked on this for 6 months longer, or I'm the one with more experience. But look, these almost always backfire. You have to remember, equity isn't really a reward for the work you've already done. It's the fuel, the motivation for the 99% of the work that's still ahead. That initial idea, or that 6-month head start, over the 10-year life of a company, it's basically a rounding error. Now, don't let the terms here scare you off. Don't think of this as a bunch of corporate jargon. Think of it more like a prenup for your company. It's just smart. A standard 4-year vesting schedule with a 1-year cliff, that's the industry standard for a reason. It makes sure everyone is committed for the long haul. It protects the company and the founders who stick around if someone decides to bail early. It basically ensures that equity is earned by creating long-term value, not just for showing up at the very beginning. Okay, so you've got that foundational team contract locked in. Now, the whole mission shifts. It's not about the idea living in your head anymore. From here on out, it is about one thing and one thing only: building something that people actually want. So with all the fancy dashboards and analytic tools we have today, what's the one single metric, the one signal you should be totally obsessed with in those early days? I'll give you a hint. It's probably not what you're thinking. This is it. This is the whole ballgame. It's whether your cohort curves get flat. In other words, retention. A flat curve means that a core group of your users are sticking around month after month. It proves you've built something valuable, at least for someone. You know, even if it's just 20% of your users, a flat retention curve means you can actually accumulate customers over time. Without it, you just have a leaky bucket, and you're pouring users in the top while they're all draining out the bottom. And that brings us to the holy grail, product market fit. Here's maybe the clearest, most practical definition you'll ever get. You know you've hit product market fit when the entire nature of your problems changes. You've suddenly switched from desperately searching for demand to struggling to meet that demand. That's the moment. That's when you finally earn the right to step on the gas and scale. So that user retention, that's your foundation. Once you've plugged the holes and stopped the bucket from leaking, then it's time to start filling it up. The game totally shifts again, this time to getting your product into the hands of more and more people by finding your growth engine. For consumer products, you've basically got 2 main levers you can pull. You've got paid growth, which can definitely give you an initial boost, but long-term sustainable success is almost always built on a solid foundation of organic growth. We're talking about things like virality, network effects. These are the engines that once you get them running, they kind of just pay back forever. Being over-reliant on paid ads, that's a huge red flag for investors and for the health of your business. Now, for a B2B company, the process is different, but it's just as critical. And here's the non-negotiable part. In the beginning, the founders have to be the ones doing the selling. No excuses. You're not just trying to close a deal, you are learning with every single conversation. You find prospects, you qualify them by listening, not by pitching, and then you show them exactly how you solve their specific pain point. And your job doesn't end when they sign the contract, it ends when they are actually successful using your product. And this really is the key mindset shift. If you're a technical founder and the very idea of sales makes you cringe, just reframe it. You're not selling, you're helping. You're using your expertise to help someone solve a problem.
I mean, you understand their problem better than anyone, and you have the solution. It's really just a process of empathy.
All right, so you've got your team, you've got a product people seem to like, and you're getting some customers in the door. But how do you know if you're actually winning? You have to know how to read the scoreboard. For a consumer startup, here's the magic number, the benchmark that signals you might have breakout success on your hands: 15%. 15% growth month over month. Now, that might not sound like a huge number, but thanks to the awesome power of compounding, that rate means you're more than quintupling your user base every single year. And what about love? How do you know if people truly love what you've built? Well, Net Promoter Score, or NPS, is a fantastic indicator. A score of plus 50 is really considered the absolute minimum baseline for a new company. And the best of the best, they're hitting scores in the 80s and 90s. It's a direct measure of your word-of-mouth potential. And finally, we get to maybe the most sobering metric of all, your burn rate. This is the clock that you are constantly racing against. It's super simple. It's just the net amount of cash your company is losing each month. And that number determines how much time, how much runway you have left to make this whole thing work. Okay, so we've covered a lot of the tactics, the what to do. But what are the principles that hold it all together? What's the mindset that really separates the successful founders from everyone else? You know, when you boil it all down, all these tactics are driven by a single mindset. It's about being generous with equity, but also taking total personal ownership of the hard jobs like sales. It's about prioritizing learning, especially in the early days, over making a quick buck. And maybe most importantly, it's about embracing your biggest advantage as a tiny startup, using that personalized human attention as your superpower against the slow-moving giants. So, there you have it, the playbook. It gives you the rules, the core strategies, but, reading about the game is one thing. Actually stepping onto the field and playing, that's something else entirely. So the only real question left is, are you ready to play?